Hello, this is Dan Ferrisi, Editor-in-Chief with Commercial Integrator, welcoming you to AV Plus, the podcast for the commercial AV integration industry. We are continuing our series of AV Plus podcasts celebrating 40 influencers under 40 honorees. We have three more today: Jeffrey Franck from CTI, Joe Dolce from Panasonic Connect, and Shannon Shamoon from Poly. Looking forward to a great conversation with three young influencers who are honored this year in the 40 under 40. Thank you for joining us on AV Plus.
As always, please like and subscribe to our YouTube page, and please subscribe to the AV Plus podcast on Apple and on Spotify.
So excited to be joined today by three more of Commercial Integrator's 40 influencers under 40, the 2022 class. Really excited to be here with Shannon Shamoon, who is Global PR Lead with Poly, Jeffrey Franck, who is Systems Design Engineer with Conference Technologies, Inc., CTI, and Joe Dolce, who is Senior Territory Account Manager for New York City with Panasonic Connect. Joe, Jeffrey, Shannon, welcome, and thank you for being here on AV Plus.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Well, I'm really excited to have you with us today because I feel like each and every one of the 40 influencers under 40 has some real insights to share and perspective to share about how to be successful in this industry and how to seed the next generation of successful young professionals in this industry. But before we turn to you as analysts, I just want to kind of get the bio from each of you. And we can start with you, Shannon, if that works. Tell me a little bit about the path you've tread that has brought you to your current position and being named an influencer in our industry in the 40 under 40.
Yeah, well, I've always had a love of all things AV, starting with music and sound systems to big screens, small screens to LEDs. For me, it all started when I made a career change from my role as a federal investigator to begin working in tech and PR and marketing. I began working at an agency in the Bay Area. We had global tech and cybersecurity clients. One of the accounts that I began managing was for a smart digital frame startup, which was my first taste of being an AV pro. I also lived in Santa Cruz at the time, and right down the street was me from Plantronics. I saw an opportunity there right before the Plantronics and Polycom merger. I saw a huge opportunity with that. I ended up joining the team, and here I am today. I've been leading our global PR program. I've witnessed so much change happen even in the short time that I've been there. I've been there for about 4 years now, a little over 4 years, in the tech industry for about 7. And I'm just really excited to see where things are going. And it's been awesome to be a part of that storytelling process and launching some of the most innovative AV tech in the market today.
It's a great summary. And I know during your time with Poly, you really have been a major contributor to a lot of initiatives. In the background material we got from you for the 40 under 40 consideration, I know you're very proud of having kind of implemented strategic comms to introduce a complete portfolio refresh. So that must have been a really exciting opportunity and something you were really able to sink your teeth into.
Absolutely. It's been so amazing working with leaders throughout the organization on just all of these different elements within our product portfolio, from phones to headsets to, our video conferencing gear, the launch of our P series, our personal devices, which honestly couldn't have been timed better at a time where everyone started working remotely and there was a real need for these solutions. So it's definitely been an awesome experience. Also working alongside partners with Zoom and Teams and just seeing how much that growth has taken place over the last few years. It's been really exciting times.
It's been very exciting times. And obviously, we work very regularly with your colleague within the organization, David Danto, and he's helping us guide the way about the idea of collaboration in the future. So to be a PR lead and direct the comms for what is obviously kind of the way of the future in a lot of ways for how commercial AV is going to operate, it must be very, very exciting. So thank you for being here, Shannon. Looking forward to chatting with you more about your perspective on the industry. But now let's turn quickly to Joe Dolce, as I mentioned, Senior Territory Account Manager for New York City with Panasonic Connect, about how you found your way into commercial AV and some of the key guideposts and benchmarks along your career that brought you to the current success that you enjoy.
Yes, thank you for having me. So it all started back in when I was a kid, actually. My father was in the manufacturing industry, working with copiers. So I always felt like I had toner in my veins. Going up, and finally I started working with Sharp Business Systems in 2010, selling digital signage, touch screens, and multifunctional products. From there, I was lucky enough to have a great general manager who came to Panasonic in the AV industry. About a year later, he gave me a call. It was around 2016, and said there's an opening in New York City. I think you'd be great for it with your end user experience, and knowing that we're moving towards an end user solution environment. From there, things kind of just really propelled. Obviously, the AV industry is constantly changing, and more of the solutions technology, working with end users and being an advisor to them and bringing them back to the integrators is one of the successes of Panasonic. So that's where where I was able to gain traction and use my experience from going door to door selling copiers and touchscreens down the street, to working with major corporations, higher education, museums, immersive technology, and really embracing what they're trying to do, what story they're trying to tell, and then making it go into fruition using our engineers, my trusted advisors and integrators, and colleagues in all throughout the industry. And we're using all parts of Panasonic to bring home a constant connection.
And as you said, bringing all those parts together for that constant connection, it's really kind of a powerful proposition. And obviously it's in your name as well, Panasonic Connect, that connection aspect of it. In the background materials that you provided for 40 Under 40 consideration, you mentioned some of those institutions and clients with whom you've worked, for example, Westchester Community College. The idea of kind of standardizing on Panasonic, having it standardized across multiple environments globally. Can you talk a little bit about the idea of standardization and how that connects with what you're doing and why it's a powerful thing?
Absolutely. So Panasonic Connect, we actually just rebranded in April. They wanted to make sure that all of our business units were connected. So we moved to a holdings company where it can more be strategic, more on-site of what we're trying to do in our little niche of the company. With our pro video, our pro audio, our service team, we really wanted to bring everything together and be able to give a custom solution to our end users for one source of service, one source for engineering, one source of technology. Like you mentioned, Westchester Community College, a few others out there, a lot of corporate offices. They don't want to have to be going to multiple different partners trying to figure out what the best solution is. Being that we have so many products in a variety of places, but they all interact and connect together, it has really made us adapt to the new hybrid world.
No doubt about it. And we want to certainly get back to talking to you, Joe, to get your perspective on how to kind of seed the next generation of young professionals to prepare us for that hybrid world and make sure we have a long-term sustainable industry that's thriving for years to come. For now, though, I do want to turn to, last but not least, Jeffrey Franck, systems design engineer with CTI. Obviously, CTI is a very high-profile integrator these days. We're hearing about projects and activities all over the country. So congratulations, Jeffrey, on having been named to the 40 Under 40. And I would like to get your perspective on your time with CTI. I think you've been there about 18 or 20 months at this point. How you found your way to the organization, and what is kind of powering your passion to work in the integration industry and work for CTI specifically?
Sure. Yeah. So I've been with CTI for just over 18 months now. And really what drove my coming to Conference Technologies or coming back out into the public sector was COVID. I worked at Wichita State University. I was doing engineering and programming there, supporting the classrooms and events venues and broadcast spaces. And my wife was a contract employee for Koch Industries. And eventually, as a contract employee, her hours slowly started being degraded or taken away. She was working 40 hours before the shutdown. And then by Thanksgiving, she was down to about 5 hours a week, which was not sustainable. So I told him I was going to start looking for other opportunities, and found an opportunity. I had met George, who is the branch director and regional vice president here in Wichita, at the Wichita Wind Surge Stadium. I was going to start doing in-house video production there because I'd already done that at Wichita State, and introduced myself, made that connection with him, and then it just kind of fell into place. Everything kind of worked out. They had never traditionally had an engineer in the office. George was doing a lot of that. So the right time happened, and they needed somebody in this office to be able to do engineering. So I've been here ever since February of last year. And from there, I started doing engineering for the Dallas office, and then shortly thereafter, it was also access control and security, and then it was also Seattle, and then now it's a couple of other markets and 2 more that are coming up as well. Now I'm more transitioning into a coaching role, helping new engineers as they're coming on, and getting them up to speed on our processes and our tools and how we're using them in our company.
And I can understand why they would be putting you in a coaching role, because in a relatively brief time period, you've really accomplished a lot and developed an expertise in a lot of areas, as you say, engineering, access control, other kinds of security verticals. I believe that you were named a subject matter expert for security, and you also earned your CTSD during this time. So can you talk a little bit about why you believe in having that kind of diversity of expertise rather than kind of saying, this is my silo, I'm going to focus on this, I'm going to specialize in this? Why is it important in this day of kind of converged technology ecosystems to have a diverse skill set oneself and be familiar with a lot of different areas?
Sure, especially in an organization like CTI, I don't have to know everything, but I just know how to know where to find the answer is. And a lot of people didn't have that answer as well. We had clients that had a need and nobody was really filling it. So one of my colleagues and one of my mentors, Toby Tungle, kind of brought me on board on the low voltage, the access control side, security side, and I just kind of ran with it. Learned it. So there's a lot of people who continue to do just they're comfortable. I won't say complacent, but this is what I do and this is only what I do. And I'm not that person. I've always had an eager, a drive to learn and be better in everything that I do. So if this is something that I can learn and help provide a service to our clients, then absolutely I'll take it on. So
to your credit, it's a laudable mindset to have. So now that we've learned a little bit about each one of you and why you're all so eminently deserving of being named to the 40 under 40, I want to kind of turn to you as subject matter experts. So the first thing I want to ask you is, we've heard about things like a brain drain where people might leave commercial AV, they could go to Silicon Valley, they could go to IT companies, whatever the case is. But obviously, we as commercial AV practitioners want people to stay in our ecosystem, in our world. And we especially want high achievers like all of you, all of the 40 under 40 to stay in our world. It doesn't have to be super personal, your own organization, but in the abstract, what would you say is going to keep people like you, high achievers, 40 under 40 types, in the commercial AV industry for the long haul? Is there any advice you would give to managers, to C-suite executives broadly, that is going to make it so that people like you stay with us for the long term? And that's an open question for everybody.
Yeah, I'll jump in to start here. First and foremost, I let them be creative. I think, there's a tendency that if you're new to the industry, new to something, fresh out of college or whatever, it's a wait and learn and sit back. And I think our generation is all about, asking why, right? You've heard that a million times. We all want to ask why. Can we try this? Can we talk about this? And just if management could just let everybody use their creativity and loosen the chain a little bit, I think it lets people feel like they're more independent and their voice is being heard and can influence the work that they're doing, especially in what we do, because it is all creative and it is all trying to fix a problem, find a solution, and make and tell the story of whatever you're trying to do, your project. So I think that's the best way to go.
Creativity and autonomy, those are key factors for you.
Yep.
Shannon, Jeffrey?
Yeah, I think, something that drew me to the industry was obviously the innovation that was taking place. And I just feel like there has been so much change, even in the short period of time that I've been here. And I know that there are a lot of folks who have been in this industry, more than 2 decades, I would say, right? Like when I think of like the David Dantos of the world and just other friendlies. And I think that that's like very much inspiring, because it just goes to show you, the amount of change that's taking place and the people that are involved in creating that change. And I think one way to, obviously, that's going to draw a certain type of person, right? Like, I think, again, all of us have this like willingness to learn and grow. So I think that's already attracting the talent. But I think in order to retain the talent, I think that leadership needs to continue. I think that, to Jeff's point earlier, coaching, from that leadership top-down style, being a coach and helping people like be educated, and then just also pushing the boundaries, pushing things forward. I think that's going to make this industry just stick around long term and continue to be on the forefront of technological advances.
I think that that's very well said. And I think if there's one thing that's really a through line through all of the 40 under 40, it's that everyone in their own way is a boundary pusher. None of the people on the list is a complacent individual. Everyone is pushing boundaries in their own way, whether it's driving their organization forward, driving themselves forward by pursuing certifications, things of that nature. It doesn't seem like anyone is resting on their laurels. Jeffrey, what about you? What do you think about keeping people like you, keeping people like Joe and Shannon within the commercial AV sphere? How can C-suite executives do that?
I definitely second the autonomy and the creative freedom. The way I design or the way I program is completely different from any of my other colleagues as well, and that's not wrong. It's just different, and that's okay. I'm totally okay with that, and I think that's awesome. The second thing would be continued education. We all have a personal drive to be better and want to learn more and do things, but the investment in the younger people as well, and don't be afraid to spend a little bit of money, because it will help you out. They'll stay. They see that, they want to be loyal to you as well. And I've been extremely fortunate to be able to. I went to InfoComm for my first time this year, and that's when I earned my CTSD. And all I had to do was ask. And I went and I passed, but it took effort on my end too, but they also, invested in me and got me there, and kept, I pulled my weight around, I was helped with the booth and whatnot, not just went there and walked around and partied, but, it was a good experience. And, I absolutely thank all the leaders who, got me there and approved it and, use the investment. So that would be my suggestion, is just, continue to invest and educate your young people.
And kudos, by the way, for that certification. It's not an easy exam, so kudos to you for doing that.
Thank you.
I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that everyone on this call is in their 30s. So my next question is about kind of the younger generation, people who are maybe in college now or in technical or trade school now. What can we do as a commercial AV craft and practice to bring people to our industry? So now it's not so much about trying to keep people from going, but what is our magnet? What is our enticement to bring people to us? I don't think there's a whole lot of, commercial AV curriculum per se. I don't know that there's a real clear pathway to us. I hear a lot of people saying they kind of fell into this industry by hook or by crook. Do you have any suggestions as subject matter experts for how to get people more intentionally into our orbit? Good question.
Well, Panasonic has an internship program that they've been really expanding this past year. They let each candidate go to each sector. So from our battery sector to mobility to the tough book sector, so everybody gets a piece and gets to see which part they actually find interesting, right? So they go into my visual systems, visual solutions, projectors, displays, cameras, have a quarter or semester there. Then they get to move on to a completely separate program, dealing with our batteries and Tesla and all that stuff. And that really does give you a full broad experience into what you like, if this is an industry that you want to be in, if it's, in the manufacturing industry, if it's in the creative industry, whatever it is, they can see all parts of what your organization can handle.
Yeah, I think internships are definitely a really great way to learn if you're interested and it's worth pursuing or not. And then I would also say there's rotational programs that really allow you to kind of go and explore each of those fields in a deeper way. But I would also say it's up to influencers and people like us to just educate the younger folks that are starting to consider their career path, and, you know, see if these sort of segments and areas are something that appeal to them.
See, I'm in a difficult spot here because in Wichita, Kansas, the market is pretty tapped for audiovisual professionals. You know, we do have it's a college town, and I think about the former students I worked with every day. You know, thinking about how I can get them involved, and, you know, trying to take them, honestly. You know, I want them to come work for us. I love my job and I love where I work, you know, so you know, there's just not, I don't know what the right answer is for at least Wichita. Unfortunately, I don't have an answer.
What I do want to ask is, given that all of you have been named for the 40 Under 40, recognized by your peers, these were not self-nominations, but rather nominations from among your peers and colleagues in the industry. What does being named to the 40 Under 40 mean to you? But even more importantly, perhaps, what does it inspire you to do next? Is this an affirmation that you've reached some high level in the industry and you feel like, well, I'm going to keep moving where I am now? Or does it make you want to drive forward, to try something new, to climb a new mountain? Being honored for what you've achieved so far, contextually, what does that make you want to do in the future?
I mean, it feels very validating. I feel like I've personally come a long way. I've learned so much. And I also just feel there's so much more to learn, right? Like, I feel like I'm just tapping into what will come in this industry. I'm very drawn to the growth, acceleration, adoption, all of these things that are happening. And like, I can't wait to see where it goes. So, you know, I am excited to be a part of this amazing group of individuals, and to see, you know, where the industry heads moving forward.
So I guess this industry has the most passionate people that I've ever seen. You go to Infocom, and it really is a dynamic group, and everybody understands what each other do and respect what each other do. And there's a niche for everybody. Being part of the 40 Under 40, you know, is very honorable. And, you know, to me, I'm looking to excel in my company, excel my other constituents, to be a part of the organization and try to aspire to be a 40 Under 40 and really make an impact in the industry at a young age to help propel them and others. I think that when people see that there's organizations like Commercial Integrator doing these types of things, it's something to aspire to, something to achieve. And I know that it comes at nice to know that your peers look at you in a respectful way, in a complimentary way. You don't see that too often, right? We do a project, we get a high five, and we move on to the next project, right? This is something that, you know, it's you know, I have other people who are in my industry, younger, who are in my organization, that I know will want to and take this as a great honor. As a prestige look. And I think it's definitely a compliment to us. And, you know, my job is to represent Panasonic in a great way. And then hopefully move up in the ladder and be able to go back to those younger and tell them about this experience, and let them shoot for it as well, and show that there is a way to be recognized in the entire industry. I mean, this is a huge industry. I know Jeffrey mentioned Infocom before. I mean, that's a great show. What is it, over 50,000 people, if our peers are all in the same area. You know, the nightlife is great. I mean, when we go to Vegas and you go out and you're at Infocom, most people are looking at the different, you know, illuminariums, and our industry is literally putting on the show. Mm-hmm. Right? There's so many shows that go to Vegas or Florida or whatever, and that's our industry is the one that's putting it on for us. You know, and it's just a great way to go see those types of things. I mean, nowadays when I go to an exhibit or an experience, I'm looking in the back to see what they're utilizing, how they're making that creativity, right? You go to Disney World, how did they do that? My wife asked, right? And I said, oh, that's a Panasonic RQ50. There's 15 of them there. They blended them together. I know the guy who did it, and my peers say it to me too. I have people that send me text messages. Hey, isn't this one of yours? So it's a really cool thing to be. And I definitely look forward to seeing where the industry is going, because it's already been really fun.
It is an amazing thing. And I love the experience focusedness of our industry these days. The fact that, we're not simply kind of technological facilitators, but we're memory makers, we're storytellers, we're smile generators. And I think that really is the very best way of thinking about the AV integration trade. Speaking of AV integration, though, I don't want to leave you out, Jeffrey. In terms of having been named to the 40 under 40, what does it mean to you, and what kind of a trajectory change might it make in your life now that you've already been acknowledged for what you've achieved?
Sure. To speak to what Shannon said, yeah, I felt like when I heard the news, I was first off, my nominee called me and asked me how old I was, and I was like, what is going on here? I don't know what he's talking about. And then later find out this is why. I was extremely humbled and incredibly excited and proud, to the point of I immediately called my wife and I had to tell her, and she was also super proud and was happy for me as well. But it's humbling, it's exciting. I think and it's kind of always been in the back of my mind, and I hope I'm doing it now as I want to lead. I did it in the Marine Corps. I hope I'm a local resource in my office and beyond, to the rest of my company and to our clients. And, that's my next goal would be, aspirations to lead within the company, whether it be locally or beyond. So. Right.
Well, if anyone has any closing thoughts, I would love to hear them. But I just, in the meantime, want to thank all of you, not only for being on the AV Plus podcast today, but also for contributing so much to the commercial AV industry that, again, your peers and colleagues decided that you were worthy of being singled out among all those, tens of thousands of people at Infocom that you referred to, Joe, that you were the 40 who deserved being singled out. So congratulations. I'm happy to hear any closing thoughts you might have for our audience about cultivating young professionals in the industry and making this industry as strong as it can be.
Thank you so much for having us. It's an honor and a privilege. And I would say to anyone thinking about getting involved in the industry, do it. It's worth a shot, especially if you're into fast-paced innovation. And again, if you want to go to Infocom, party with these guys. So.
I second that. Infocom's always something that we all look forward to, right? Something that, first of all, thank you so much for doing this. And it has to be a lot of work. It has to be hard to pick. So I thank you guys for putting this all together. It is something to aspire to for everyone else who hasn't yet been nominated. And if to become a part of the industry, and telling that story, like you mentioned, the immersive story that's going on, the actual, putting smiles on people's faces and being able to see your work in progress and be set and accomplished. You actually see the project done. And if you like that, then I think that this is an industry where that you could really thrive.
100%.
Yep. And yeah, thank you again for having us, and obviously being named was super cool as well. But I'd say this is a trade. There's no actual formal school for any of this. It's either on the job or vendor training or whatever. So, and don't be afraid to do it. I didn't know I was going to do this in my life. I dropped right out of high school. I joined the Marine Corps. That's what I wanted to do. The Marine Corps said, "You're going to fix radios." And I was like, okay, that sounds like I'm not getting shot at. That sounds like a great plan, So, but those steps and those opportunities got me to where I am today. And I went, from fixing radios to being in commercial broadcasting to video broadcasting, video production at the university to classrooms. And then here I am in commercial AV. It's just this one big ever evolving, and they're all loosely related, but you don't necessarily have to be, I don't know, I'm an engineer, right? I'm a high school graduate. So, but I create solutions for people, and that makes, it's exciting. It can be, sometimes it's a little bit of rinse and repeat, but sometimes it's not, and that's really fun. So.
Well, I want to again thank all of you for being here today on the AV Plus podcast and sharing your knowledge, sharing your perspective, sharing your wisdom. So happy to have been joined by Shannon Shamoon, who is Global PR Lead with Poly, Jeffrey Franck, who is Systems Design Engineer with Conference Technologies, Inc., CTI, Joe Dolce, who is Senior Territory Account Manager for New York City with Panasonic Connect. Again, thank you one and all, and congratulations on having been named to the 40 Influencers Under 40 list. My name is Dan Ferrisi, Editor-in-Chief with Commercial Integrator, thanking you for joining us today on AV Plus, the podcast for the commercial AV integration industry. Please check back on commercialintegrator.com regularly for more great content just like this, including our long-running series of 40 Under 40 podcasts, which will continue through early October as we honor each and every one of our 40 Under 40 honorees.